Good evening to you. Today we are hosting a seminar with some people who are interested on the topic about how to get the younger generation and their parents responsible for the digital behavior. We get reports of even self-harm in children as young as 10 years old, and with the digital platforms needed to keep online school going, the issue has become quite a problem. So I trust you listening to this and sharing this with others will help us to get on track. So let me show this diagram. I have to show this diagram, and there are three diagrams here. The first one on the top, if you are not seeing it properly, it will be up on my timeline anyway. First one on the top are the 7 functional brain tracts. So these wire up from the time the little fellow is in the mother's womb. So more bonding mother has with the little fellow, more brain brilliant and empathic he becomes. You are following what I am saying, isn't it? At this point my theme would be brain bright and heart warm. So the mother, we encourage the mother to consciously speak to the little fellow. Maybe if you are the praying kind, pray with the little fellow, sing nice songs. Even if you are a working mother, let's say every 3 hours, take a little 5 minutes off to speak to the baby in the womb also. In the womb itself, PGE, prostaglandin E, begins to secrete in different parts of the brain. So if you want to take down notes, you can take down and question me on things you didn't understand or want to clarify more. So mother is bonding with the child while the baby is in the womb. That is how these 7 tracks are getting formed. Empathic, first one, empathic, intuitive, they all start in the prefrontal cortex and we go backwards really. Empathic, intuitive, how I think about myself. Empathic, relational, how I assess others. So empathy is good for me, good for others, good for my future. Dyspathy is a new term coined which means the opposite of empathy. That's what the digital screen does, pushes the child to dyspathy. Then the linguistic track, if you give the child the digital screen before the age of 3, you will scramble his language. So absolutely no digital screen in any form before the age of 3, which is a medical requirement first propounded by the American Pediatric Association. The fourth one is the logical management track, which is the one we develop when we give the child analog toys. So every little building block and him planning what he can do, age relevant toys, one at a time. Don't crowd his mat or playpen with a lot of stuff, he gets nowhere. If mom is at home or grandmother is at home, or caring someone is at home, then you tell them keep 1 toy at a time. But if such close supervision is not there, at least only 3 toys at a time. Of course the digital screen is not a toy. More digital screen the child is on, he becomes stupid. So that's the tragedy of the digital screen. Analog toys and so on. So with the toys they go 3-dimensional, 2 to the power 3. With the flat screen you lose the 3-dimensional, so you dumb down brain tracking and growing by 50%, which is a tragedy. So more you touch, and then the child's fingers around clay or real earth, matty, is even better. You get matty in bookshops. So more he does this, you will see that this is action that is conducive to handwriting. And it is interpreted as a language, 3-dimensional finger movement. If the child is on the screen, he just looks at the screen and there's no such movement at all. So that's the linguistic one, the logical management track. Then you have the expressive tracks, the kinesthetic, acoustic and visual. When the child is on the screen, the kinesthetic, acoustic, visual wires up. Therefore, expression wires up overmuch. you dumb down the empathic, intuitive, relational, linguistic and the management track. That's the problem with the digital screen. So we must not do this. Even when the mother is on to a very, very vigorous digital life, a little fellow in the womb picks it up. So the early months of bonding after birth is also very valuable for the child's brain tract formation. So if now these modern mothers are sometimes on the smartphone while trying to breastfeed, milk stops. Because breastfeeding is an empathic thing with the child suckling and love and all that. You can't mechanically do it. So this is about the getting your brain tracts right from mother's womb. So children who have been exposed to epigenetic influences, that is, those days we thought everything is hardwired on the chromosomes and genes. Now we know outside influences get expressed on the genes. So mother having I'm talking about the mother because mother is bearing the child. But if mother is feeling deprived, which we for a long time knew as the maternal deprivation syndrome, if mother is deprived in any sense, having a bad time with the husband, the father, child picks it all up, which we knew from medical faculty days. So the child's brain bonding from very young days is important. Other thing is, any little alcohol by the pregnant mother will affect the child's brain badly. So now, after many years of haggling, Royal College of Obstetricians have put out a statement saying no amount of alcohol can be said to be safe for mom when she is pregnant. That is a politically correct statement. What they should have said is, pregnant mom, don't drink. But at least it has come out now, so you can understand how many moms would have taken some amount of alcohol when the child is in the womb. Therefore, the plethora of ADHD, ADD, different learning disabilities and so on. The commonest I get in our Empathic Learning Center, which is usually on a Friday, is speech scramble at the age of 6. Because they learn like parrots when they are younger. So they repeat what others say, which is not language formation, which is not sentence formation. When the child is passing through 6, the child can't form language. No more does she have a memory to pick up everything just by memory. So they get very angry because they can't express themselves. So when I always insist that both father and mother must come and own the problem. Because modern society thinks the therapist can do anything. So I insist mom and dad to come and own the problem. So I fire my questions at dad. Then he sheepishly looks at mom. No, I said, no, I asked you. So since I don't charge for my consultations, I sort of get them to understand. Usually mother knows there's a problem. Father is in denial mode, not owning the problem. So in my empathic learning consultations, it takes time to get both of them to own the problem and then get the child to also agree to certain things. So that's how therapy part goes. Then when you go upstairs, you will see what else we do for therapy. Our innovative thing has been more motor activity, movement the fingers and toes have, more you can correct the child's 3 major problems of too much screen. 3 major problems are inattention, that is attention span is short and shallow. So when the child is 5, 6, the child can't absorb deeply what the child should absorb. Then child is more inattentive when the teacher is speaking and you can't absorb. So it's a vicious cycle. Attention depth is shallow, attention span is also short. So when the child is getting into proper school at the age of about 5, attention span is about 15 minutes. In play school, you don't come across this because they're all the time playing and running, so it gets masked. But when you go to proper school and you have to sit, the problem comes up. That is attention. The other thing is child is hyperactive. That is, he all the time he's doing things and he switches from one thing to the other. And if you give the screen to him, he'll be, doing this, that and the other. And modern parents will say, my child is brilliant on the screen. They are guilty inside, but they do a cover-up by saying, child is very smart on the screen. Impulsivity is, they suddenly do things, including anger. So the digital screen affects their curriculum, character, choices, all get, and later career of course, all get affected by the digital screen. Before I finish with that diagram, I need to say that memory tracks form only till the age of 14. So till the 14, the parents must look after child's deep sleep plus deep thought. Memory neuronal tracks form when the child has deep thought in a book. So any music disrupts that kind of activity. Only music that is helpful is classical music with the child is playing, not just listening. The child herself playing the piano, but chord instruments, string instruments are makes brain more brilliant, because the vibration sense is one of the most brain developing sense. But keyboards is fine. So in our Empathic Learning Center for therapy, we use music, we use arts and crafts, handicrafts, ropes, knitting, making food, and an empathic motor center we have, empathic motor therapy. We call it Den and Dare. You will see it uses grips and ropes like a challenge. You have seen challenge courses like Onchilla, swings they go. So we have a 3,600 square feet thing where children are put to that. So we encourage dad to come and do his muscles with the son there, not to go to the gym alone. Yeah, so you have to save the modern dad from selfie existence. When a child begins to get digitally affected and rude, reckless, dad has to step in. So starting from the other side, dad being present for the child, I normally say keep 7 p.m. as a happy hour, and dad, please give your son 1 hour, because that's the best career you have. Corporate is your second career. Then I'll just introduce 2 more diagrams before you start your questions on me. So this second diagram, Dhananjay, this second diagram is the dopamine serotonin balance in your thinking conceptual tracks. So for adult or a child at 12 years, he works to salience, so his focus, then dopamine is working and comes down. Then serotonin takes over, does a check back and says, I did it well, I need to improve. So the self-check along with improvement and reward motive, child must get from inside. You put the child on the digital screen, dopamine doesn't come down. Dopamine says, do, same thing, do. This is the thing they have in their head. So if mom goes and says, darling, you have been on the screen for 3 hours, he will shout and say, oh, rubbish, I only started now, and things like that. If the child grows with this chart I showed, default mode network of thought we call it, child knows the time by intuition inside. His chronobiology gets adjusted to the way he does his eating, the playtime and everything else. When the child has lost that internal rhythm, he loses time. So he's endlessly on the screen. Besides that, the dopamine receptors shift from, you might have to close that door. Dopamine receptors shift from physiological to addictive. So our normal physiological dopamine is do 45 minutes, come down. Serotonin takes over and say, well done, you did it well, you can improve like this. Of course, man is not only chemicals. We start with our spirit, and our conscience is our umpire, our heart is our affection generating center. Two must be in the balance, and you must not match fix the umpire. Otherwise the conscience will start saying, it's okay when you do it, it's not okay when others do it, kind of thing. Finally, of course, our big brain with the neurons and the neurochemistry goes wrong with the digital screen. Last diagram is a significant diagram of all this. That would be quickly the most important one. You will see one there. Can you see one? And this one means top-down regulation. This is our empathic, executive, thinking, doing track. From the mother's womb, we can train the little fellow to think and do, depending on how much conceptual attention he gets. Much more so when the child is born. So this is executive, empathic, reflective, creative, and it goes initiate, navigate, conclude, and then child's insight says good reward. It may be building blocks, it may be drawing something. So crayons on black paper is the best frictional method of getting a brain tracting in art. Crayons with black cartridge paper. More friction, the better it is. So pencils are always better than pens and so on. Art with color is okay for entertainment, but really drawing with the pencil shapes is the good thing. Also the stroke of a brush, but crayons on black cartridge is the one that imprints the brain best, if I may put it like that. So that's how you must develop the child. You put the child on the digital screen. The screen is brilliant. Child is just a robot. He is reacting. Every game, every digital screen thing, it's a screen that does it first. So child is not thinking and doing. He's reacting or responding only. Then he goes to bottom-up regulation. That works via the amygdala and the hypothalamus. Then there's dyspathy, impulsive, repetitive, reflexive, reactive. And he gets into fight, fright, flight mode, and he will be verbally abrasive, rude to the sibling. He's always thrill-driven. When you're on the screen, what you did last is pushing you. And the sci-fi, undoable imagination, the thrill, the virtual reality has become his reality. So he's all the time not here. He's either caught up in his last digital game, or the next thing he will do, he's not here. So he gets into a reckless, sexually experimental, thrill-seeking, peril-seeking behavior, which is called bottom-up. Why do you call it bottom-up? Everything that comes from outside, he begins to listen to. I need a drink. Yeah. He begins to listen to what the parents say, or form his own thoughts and do is not in him. So you have to lead your child when the child is very young. From age 5, 6, parents have to get their voice heard, do things with the little fellow. If you leave them to the screen, aliens are leading them, and you can't change that at the age of 14. Then peers will get into it, bad influence will get into it. So that's the tragedy with children. Now your questions.
Thanks so much for all the details, Dr. Lalith. Very first question, what is the most effective and successful intervention in helping gaming addiction? What is the most effective intervention in your experience?
So what I do is, child is in the middle, dad and mom on either side. So I start exercising. If the child is above 12, you have to speak a lot of science. So the same diagrams I showed you, I draw with him. Drawing and seeing has a better effect. So I draw with him and get him to understand this is the science. So I have to, depending on the child's, how much the child has absorbed fake science about the digital screen, I have to become quite scientific to let him know I know more than him. Because he knows more than the parents, he knows more than the teacher. By the time he comes to me, he knows more than anybody else. That's what the digital screen has done to him. So I have to become his colleague, and when I start talking the science, in about hardest case, in about 20 minutes time, he says, this bloke seems to be knowing the science more than me. So I don't do it intentionally, I become his friend, and then he's willing to now listen. Then I address the parents. Now by that time parents are convinced they have a big problem on their hands. Dad gets convinced. Then when I speak to the son or daughter at length like that, he says, thinks in his head, if this doctor who does not know us and is not benefiting financially from this took 20 minutes with my son, I should be giving some time to him. So that's where the owning thing comes. So dad has to own the issue. Then when it comes to more advice, the child should not hear. By that time, child will be taken up to things he would like to do. A very addicted child, I put on the empathic motor therapy. The then and there thrill thing there, the grips and ropes, and it's real thrill. So this chap who before the screen has been a digital hero doing stupid nothing. Of course I don't tell him all this. When he goes to the thrill thing, you will see it has low ropes, which is also a little tough. Mid ropes are quite tough. When it is higher with harness and helmet, then it is quite thrilling, really tough. Then he mans up to it and says, okay, what I thought was thrill is just spurious. There are more things that are thrilling, and he buckles down to agrees to come there every Friday or any frequency that dad chooses to give the son. Yeah. So that is where I start with a very addicted person. If the child is less than 10, child is generally happy for handicraft, see a video and draw. So we have staff who are very well trained and very devoted to this. I can't run this place without them doing the rest of it. I only do the theory part. I only conceptualize. So they have to sit now. Before COVID came on a Friday, there would be at least 10, 12 children here, newcomers as well as those who have come before, going through the exercise, so to say. So we hire a music teacher, then and there is available, that's the motor part. Then the arts and crafts part. So then of course, if a child is into an addiction that has taken 3 years, then to get him out of it, 21 days, there has to be a consistent thing dad commits to do at home. When a child is okay, mom makes him, 21 days.
If the child is over 10, so about say 16, 17, it is gone undiagnosed, is this the same approach you would use?
The over 16, 17 are not interested in art and craft. They still may be interested in music, but they'll be interested in the empathic motor therapy. Then of course we had to get them down for a half-a-day program. We have a outdoor center in Pamnungamajayala. We get them, that will be a team thing. There will be normal fellows and digitized fellows, and they go through a real rough and tumble scout-like program, mud, mangrove, going over the ropes, and real. So when they go through that, usually 2/3 of a day, for 2/3 they forget the phone, which is a great achievement. So that drivenness of dopamine gets a detox, and you get back at least 1/3 a human being with whom now dad can relate to. Otherwise, fellows who are hot are very hot. They, in my presence, they treat parents very badly, and they are, so I have to keep my cool and talk science to him and all that. Then I feel God and prayer also works at the time also.
So on that note, how long roughly does it take for the chemical imbalance to come back to normal during this detox?
Severity of the digital influence on the brain depends on how much each time he sits at it. Two, how much nighttime he's involved with it. More nighttime digital dosing, the more the brain chemicals get disrupted. Then whether there are parallel substance abuse and things like that. Then other things like internet gambling and so on. Then how much on real digital platforms in competitive digital gaming. So usually thumb's rule is how sleep disturbed the child is. So if I find a child has played through the night fairly frequently, that's a worse. So to get you to understand, a teacher couple, they came and there was a girl, nice looking girl, and she's seated, long sleeves, and sits in front of me, and mother is saying that she's very addicted and so on, and she's waiting, listen to my science and all that. Then mother said, darling, you didn't tell the problem no to uncle. Then again mother about 3-4 times, then she said she drew up her sleeve here. She has cut herself. And I said, why did you do that? You have to experiment with death. You must understand what death is like. Now this very silent girl, you know. And she's very bold about the experiment she did. So there were others who have, she was the most outspoken about it. So it's not an easy problem. So when you are thinking of taking up to it, it's a need. But you have to understand the whole psyche and the science behind it. It's a needed ministry, yeah.
So through this process, does your intervention changes based on how much you feel the chemical imbalances have come down? After a certain amount, do you do something different in the intervention?
Yeah. School performance is the, what shall I say, sort of benchmark, you know. School begins to say she's attentive, and we have found fellows from always getting very low marks going up to 90% in other sad thing in this, IQ high little fellows, if they don't get their SQ and EQ from parents, they go to the digital screen more. So some of the most brilliant potential kids get more addicted because parents simply didn't have time to give them. This is a tragedy really. So when school performance begins to improve, sleep begins to improve, then they get back to normal meal times. All digitally affected fellows hate vegetables, hate fruit. Both fruit and crunchy vegetables have serotonin. So when they eat fruit and crunchy vegetables, they feel the digital high goes off. So without taking a proper meal, they'll be snacking. Then red drinks have a stimulant that goes the digital way. Sweets, running and eating, all those. So good results would be restoring mealtime, restoring home cooked food, you know, getting out of his system all kinds of junk by this time that he's consuming. Then I have 5 digital laws that are, I told you, one, no digital screen before age 3. No screen at meal time. That's a breakthrough we have to get. Coach the parents and all that. So whatever thrilling thing is happening on TV news, meal time is meal time. Fixed time, fixed table, fixed chairs, and you know, all that. You have to give real simple advice because meal times make lifelong habits. Most of your good memories at home will be regarding meal time. So recover the meal time as much as possible. So no screen at meal time, no screen after 6 p.m. So of course I'm telling the absolutes. So if there's online studies and things like that, that's a different thing. Try not to give not to be on the screen more than 25 minutes, and not to interchange, social media, whatnot. Not multitask, not screen surf. All those are, literally, I have called them 5 digital laws.
What would you say is the key difference when you're counseling gaming addict, digital? We are mainly talking about video gaming, but digital screen addict versus any other addiction. what is the key difference with digital addict versus any other addiction in your experience?
As I said, with the digital addiction is called electronic cocaine by Massachusetts. Another group of scientists call it digital heroin, but electronic cocaine is the more technically right term, because cocaine also drives the dopamine curve unendingly, and dopamine shifts from physiological to addictive. Then dopamine says do. It becomes a foxhole situation, what the soldier faces in a foxhole situation. These fellows feel like that.
So that would be the similarity. What would be the key difference of a digital addict versus any other type of addiction when it comes to your counseling, as your experience in counseling digital addiction versus any other addiction? What is the key difference you have experienced?
I'll preface it by saying digital addiction feeds all other addictions: pornography, gambling, substance abuse. Anger is also addiction, recluse behavior and junk food and all that. Digital addiction feeds all that. In a sense, if you attend, so this generation's addictions are driven by the digital screen. If you attend on the digital thing, or putting it differently, without attending on the digital addiction, you can't get them out of other addictions. Other problem is, digital screen is not considered bad, no. It's a smart thing, it's the thing, and those who don't talk against the digital screen are stupid dinosaurs of another age. All this stuff has been going on. But France has banned the screen for schools until the age of 12. So some Western countries have taken action, and then high-end schools in Australia and England are going off the screen. High-end schools. And high-end boarding schools in UK get the parents to sign an agreement that during sleep time the digital gadget will not be allowed in the dormitory. So now in UK all this is agreed to for their paid schools.
So in regards to, since we're all we're amateur counselors under training, what would you say, especially for our benefit, what is the fundamental common mistakes that as counselors we make when dealing with digital addicts? What is fundamental mistakes we should watch out for?
Drop the word addict. Just say digital overuse.
What is the fundamental mistakes that we could make?
You have to work with parents. They have to own the issue. 2, you have to learn the science thoroughly. You can't hear it from me. You have to be scientifically convinced. Dr.lalith Mendis is saying the absolute scientific basis, and we have to learn it as much as we can. I haven't spoken to you esoteric science, isn't it? It's the science that you can pick up. So as I said, my charges are that you buy the books. The little books are for parents to read with the child. Even if the child is 3, 4, 5, you can read it. So I have called 7 p.m. the happy hour, where dad sits with the son and daughter. It's also the mistake manage hour. And then I say after meals, keep a little time with the child. And when the child is falling asleep, GABA works. From 6 p.m. melatonin begins to work. And when the child is falling asleep, GABA is gamma-aminobutyric acid. It's the empathy hormone. It's a neurochemical transmitter. It tells the fellow, I want to tell Tati, I did this wrong, that kind of thing. There's a neurochemical action that you can get a benefit when he's trying to fall asleep. He's a lion. Up to that time, he's a roaring lion, fighting and all that. So harvest that falling asleep time, sacrificing your TV shows and whatnot, be there.
So in this day and age when gaming is socially acceptable, how do you help convince the child or young adult that this is, digital video gaming is harmful? Since it's social.
I'll explain the books. So there is that. There is Mom, Dad and Me and Mistake Management. It's written similarly, little more than the others, so older child to read this through. This introductory book, Let the Children Come to Me, importance of attending on the children. Whatever organization you are from, church or social organization or whatever, importance of attending on the children. This is Right Learning and Recovering Childhood, a very basic thing that gets the parental attention. These are available at Saraswati and Vijitayappa and so on, our own bookshop. The foreword to this has been written by the warden of St. Thomas's School, which you know is the greatest school in the world, and by the former dean of the medical faculty. This is my latest, Screen Smart. They're more technical than others. This is Parenting Heart and Brain in a Digital Age. Then I have two bigger books. This is quite technical, Winning the Digital War for millennials and us all. This is Mission Possible. This gives spiritual, what shall I say, an outlook of the problem. So there is quite a handbook for counselors.
So,
sorry, you asked a question.
No, I think that actually answers a bunch of questions I had already prepared. So I think that answers are in the book. In regards to the approach a counselor should take when the child is referred, like they come against their own free will, what tips do you offer?
You asked me when social gaming is supposedly acceptable, how do we get the child off it? So what I pitch to him is his future brilliance. I draw graphs and say, look son, that your memory tracks will grow only till the age of 14. Brain is neuroplastic in other ways. Even after a stroke, you recover some part, but the real memory cells and memory tracks will grow only till the age of 14. So if he's 12 years, I say you have only 2 years to get your IQ the best it is, so please don't waste it with digital screen. And I give him an incentive for his future. Then I tell him, and the truth is also that when you are 17, you have to have a basic understanding of which course you will take, economics or accountancy, medicine, law, what. At the age of 17, if you go like this, you will not know what to do. And then when you are 21, you still don't know what to do. Then you keep changing courses. Then when you are 28, you will keep changing jobs, which is the fact. And I pitch it like that it is in your interest now to buckle down to some good solid work. Otherwise they think digital screen is the only work. And then they have fantastic ideas about I'll become a games coach and I'll become a pilot and all that stuff.
It's very, very helpful. As far as when a child is referred to you, when they come against their will, is this the same method? You give them information? Is that how you do it?
Yeah. So when he's about 13, 14, getting them to see what the future is like, what do you like to do, then you engage them with some scientific discoveries and so on.
With their ambitions,
you fan their ambitions in the right direction. Then parents begin to pick up, our fellow is 13, we have to work on him now vigorously. Otherwise they wait till he's O-level or A-level, saying by that time you can guide them, you can't. They have wasted their best 5 years on the screen.
So,
then there are other things. Now I had a fellow coming from a good school, he unkempt, hair unkempt, he looks like he hasn't washed. His father says he gets up in the morning, digital screen, whole day through. He may eat, may not eat. So from a good school, good family, completely gone,
How would you counter their argument in terms of like some of them would come up saying, yes, but I see my career in gaming, like to launch it on YouTube, now that's the latest phase for them, whether they can be gamers
Influencer.
and earn their money that way.
Yeah.
How would you counter that argument?
I have not been asked this question, but I have seen the thing. I would say, look, there are many influencers. Do it as a hobby, but it is better to have a proper professional track. in the post-COVID world, the chance for entertainment is going down. Too many people are in it already. You better have a qualification, isn't it? Do this as a hobby, talk him through it. Yeah.
Dr. Lalith, as far as from your perspective as a counsellor, how do you deal with the addicts' withdrawal symptoms? How do you help deal with that?
Do they have withdrawal symptoms, and then what are they, and also how do you deal with it?
Yeah. When they are going through the empathic motor therapy, thing is to get the dopamine down. I told you dopamine is high, and shift the dopamine from addictive DA2 to physiological DA1 receptors. So this exercise of doing this is called proprioception, and the target, there are 20 unchillas, like, swings like things, and you're doing it in a team, and the day out there for a whole, now when we start at about 9 o'clock, say till about 4 o'clock it goes on. Sometimes we have overnight programs, it's the evening of entertainment and drama, and then competition, and they are timed, and teams get marks and so on. One team was Putin, another team was Trump, Yeah, we don't give any local names, for our own safety. Yeah. So a real outdoor program is very attractive. Once 7 coaches came with their different teams. Somehow that gets him back to team, real life, real sports. Other he lives up, in some other planet. So whole day is needed to get the breakthrough.
In regards to the withdrawal symptoms, what have you noticed, or how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
Do they get like suicidal and
Not the way we have done. Not the way we have done.
So you haven't experienced withdrawal symptoms like any other drugs when they come off, there's
No, this is internal dopamine. It's not external drugs, the digital thing. So it can get aroused only to a degree unless the fellow has been taking external drugs also.
This is in regards to, since you're a Christian as well as
also we make the parents own the problem. So this is important thing. They have to fully work with you. Otherwise there's no solution.
So it's not on the child, it's as a family.
And not on the counselor.
Right.
It's the parents owning the problem. As I said, more than half my time is to get the parents on track.
You place a lot of emphasis on the father, but what happens if the father is not around or in the picture?
Yeah, it's a big problem. Because the problem is that the father is not there. So the solution is get the father there. But definitely estranged families, father working abroad, very difficult problem. So we have male father figures normally when I do this thing. So at least for the therapy times here, there's a male father figure. But it's an enormous problem because this problem, the child is so much on the screen, is for the lack of a authentic disciplinarian who also gives love. Yeah.
also, doctor, now they will come to one session, but repeated sessions. Have you had the experience where they don't turn up, or parents have to forcibly bring the child? Is there any tips you can give how to tackle that?
Usually, if parents own it and come, particularly the father, they have repetitively come. I may be able to recall some fellows who refuse to come. Excuse me. That is very rare. If parents own the problem, they will come. Of course, we have a diversity of programs, There's the indoor one, outdoor one, try to get them one way or the other way. We have a massive database, so we keep... then for particularly girls or boys, we do a thing called Kids Bakery. So one course is a full making fruit salad, making cookies, different things, real microwaves and all.
Dr. Lalith, as a Christian, what key tools do you use in counseling those addicted to it? As a Christian, what do you use?
So I tell them this is God's design. I work on the basis that God has a design violating his design, we injure ourselves. Then I work on the basis that there is a good shepherd. And we are, humans are designed to hear and follow. If we don't hear the good shepherd, we will follow something drastic, injurious. And then in mistake management, I show them that you can come. In mistake management, I show them that when the good shepherd sits with us, he absorbs our wrongs, he doesn't right our wrongs, and he erases them off. And you don't do, for children, you don't do Ratuk Hatira, and all our wrongs, he turned it around. So I take a lot of time on mistake management. Dad becomes the good shepherd who absorbed the things that went wrong with the child, and I say you don't give him retributive justice, courts are there for that, you give him redemptive justice. So always you speak improvement for the child. Child mustn't hear condemnation for the errors parents have. The digital screen didn't walk into the child's hands, isn't it? So I have to be gentle with parents at that time to give them hope that with what they do, they can do this. Yeah.
Last two questions, Dr. Lalith, thanks so much for your time this time.
Yeah.
For a person who has recovered from digital addiction, say a teen or older child,
Yeah.
How do you recommend eradication of screens or management of screens?
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
Then we have a program for A-level, O-level, Ayya and Akka, older brother and sister, to get them on track. I tell them, look, now what your Malli and Nangi sister and brother faces at the age of 12 now, you're 17, during this 5 years, the screen has become far more vicious. Then trailers of another higher age group comes in. Whatever you do, it comes in. So there are tech-savvy parents who have agreed with the children, your screen life will come on my computer. You have to do all those things.
So it's about managing and it's not
managing the risk. That is the managing the risk. Then while on the screen there are things that can reduce the dopaminergic drive. So if you put a choir rope mat on the floor and get the fellow to scrub, barefooted, scrub the thing, then the digitizing effect of dopamine reduces. Because friction works good on the brain. Similarly on your hands. Then chewing pear or apple using mastication is a way of reducing the digital effect. Then seeing 3D things near you and touching them, and of course tweezers or clay balls, matty balls, activity. So you don't allow the dopamine thing go up. You try to break that up thing.
By other analog activities.
Exactly, by other analog activities. Then also hang the cricket ball, whether you are a cricketer or not, take aim, honor lanupadura, matching turf kind of thing, top. Then onchilla pandinawa, grow gardens, grow pets, aquarium, fish tank, then watch the sun down and watch the sunrise. So I will send you a list of all my digital clips. You need to go through them if you want to really, you have to reinforce what I am saying constantly with thinking like that.
Thanks so much. Last question from me. What are the symptoms of someone who is becoming a digital addict? Meaning, how can you pick up if they are on the path of becoming? Yeah, not like...
Of course, more time, neglecting meals, missing tuition times and things like that, then giving boru excuses, on the screen and lying. Initially, they feel guilty. Later on, they'll often use the word, who cares, I don't care. before that happens, they are feeling, they are accountable to parents and to their future and for a better hope and so on. Yeah.
That's it from me.
Does the TV also have the same?
Same thing. So I tell parents, don't take a 4K TV home. Take a lesser thing, By the way, more pixels, the more the brain effect. So even for Zoom, use a non-smart screen, older laptop. When a child is studying, don't use the iPad and the tab. Certainly smartphone is horrible for that kind of thing.
So bigger the screen, it's better, is that correct?
No, the pixel strength. Pixel pinch, PPI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the questions from me.
And all the other screen activities feed one on top of the other, isn't it? Yeah.
Dr. One question from me is now, younger kids who are like 13 or less than 13, they may succumb to the parents, bringing them. If the child is older, so 15, 16, they can't really be forced to come. So how do you get them to a point to come and as a parents?
Yeah. What I have found is when school has recommended or a doctor, some of my students recommend, still Sri Lankan 16, 17-year-old fellow is financially dependent on the parents, so they still come. Then of course, other thing is to get them for a sports kind of program in an outdoor thing. Then with friends, so we say friends to bring friends, intentionally. Then that may catch them to come because of the sports and entertainment part of it. There must be people, but in my experience there haven't been young fellows who said can't come. They still have a Sri Lankan context is a little different from the West, isn't it? They still have parents still have some kind of hold. Yeah. I mean, there might be a wild scene out there, but still. Yeah.
And how do you function now with this coronavirus situation? Understand the center is not really.
Yeah, we didn't ask large groups to come. We haven't done large group therapies. When some parent is still very keen, I have said okay. Otherwise, the corona time, we have let it be in abeyance because we also had other more burdens too, I got involved in the COVID process and the pharmacology of it. You perhaps know that I was head of Department of Pharmacology in a state medical faculty. So I got quite involved in the, some deliberations like that. So I still see the need for this. It's a thing of parents, getting parents to be responsible for the kids. And the digital issue is worse than ever before. So some schools have asked me to do sessions, including STC, some international schools. Then some companies also got me to do these things, particularly at this time, saying things are getting worse than normal. Shut down and all that, only the screen is there. So world outside has, responsible people in different places. Corporates got me to do advice sessions for their parents on Zoom or Microsoft Team or whatever.
Even for adults, doctor, are they the same sort of interventions that we can use?
The same interventions, only that little fellows, what happened to a little fellow in 30 minutes, it might take about 90 minutes for the same dopaminergic effect to go on in an adult. Yeah.
But what is the number? Some parents say that the child takes the phone to bed, takes it to the room, and when they ask the child if you should give us, how do the parents deal with that?
It's a problem.
14, 15-year-olds.
So I have always said, very early, insist that no digital gadgets in the night in the room. Also, other thing is LED lights, the blue frequency contributes to the digital effect of the brain. Reduce the LED lights where the child is studying and so on. No LED lights in the washroom or bathroom. So prevention is obviously better than cure. So I keep saying, don't give the digital gadgets to be taken to the room. 2, don't allow the child to make the room, nobody is going to come, I am the king of my room. Yes, when you get married, how did that sound? Till then, dad is the king of the room, if he is living in the house. Very old-fashioned ideas, but I am pitching the sort of, so to negotiate it. Help him in those ways. Then I plead with parents, don't give the digital screen till A-level is over. Very difficult thing. But I know a famous school in Colombo, the vice principal worked it out with her own daughter, not to have a smartphone for the child, for the daughter, till she finished A-level. I have had young fellows coming, 9 A's in the O-level, 3 F's in the A-level. So I asked him how, so parents are on either side. I said, how did this happen? You got 9 A's in the O-level and 3 F's in the A-level. He said, must be the digital screen. Then I said, so what did your parents say? He says, they scolded me, but who cares? In front of the parents themselves, he said that. And there was one suicide in a school outside Colombo, a very good school, girls' school, head prefect. She got very good O-level results, and she was head prefect. 6 months before the A-level, she realized she's going to crash. And she drank brandy with Panadol. Panadol more than 10 tablets is kaput. So you must not keep too much Panadol in the house with a child who is risky. But doctors saved her. Unfortunately, before they could get proper advice into the child, and parents were very, very influential parents, it was hush, and they went off. Next time around, she hung herself with the mother's sari, dead. So it's and there were some suicidal jumps, that in Colombo, from building sites, high-rise buildings. Yeah. So these things have happened. Then there was that Blue Whale app that tells you to do things. Now there's another one that dares you to do dangerous things. Yeah. So these things have happened in Colombo. Thankfully, not frequently. Yeah.